Christians. In 1 Corinthians 15, beginning in verse 16, we read the following by the Apostle Paul. And he says, "If the dead do not rise, then Christ is not risen. And if Christ is not risen, then our faith is futile. It's vain. It has no end." And then he says, "And you are still in your sins." Now, many people go to great lengths to mythologize the whole scenario, or all of the scenarios regarding Christ. They go to great lengths to render it something that is unbelievable, to the point where it cannot be looked upon as any more than just mythology. But Paul says that if Christ is not risen and we are not risen and our faith would be in vain, he goes, if those things were true, even if those things were true, even if Christ didn't rise from the dead, even if we will never rise from the dead bodily, it doesn't, he says still, that it doesn't eradicate sin. Sin is trespassing against God. Sin is iniquity. Sin is missing the mark. Sin is wickedness of every form. If you don't believe in resurrection, if you don't believe that Jesus Christ raised from the dead, and if you don't believe that Jesus Christ will raise you from the dead, and if you don't believe, like the Sadducees in general, that there is no resurrection of the dead, even if you don't believe any of those things, and even if those things that you say you don't believe are true, in terms of them not being true, you still have a problem. You still have sin to account for. Notice what the apostle says. If Christ is not risen, your faith is futile, and you are still in your sins. Your faith is futile, but you are still in your sin. In other words, we still, on some level, must give account for sin. And the fact that there is no resurrection, which there is, the fact that you believe that Christ didn't raise from the dead, which he did, still does not eradicate sin. Sin must be dealt with. Be provoked, be persuaded.